I have to say, I mean, just to start, your experience of Waymo's, being sort of surprised and delighted from the sounds of it is consistent with, basically everything I hear at this point. You occasionally do hear people sort of, to the extent that they denigrate, Waymo's at all. It's just, oh gosh, I would be too scared to get into one of those. But, almost universally, when you talk with people who experience it, they get a kick out of it. You don't see a ton of sort of negative takes on sort of how they perform. They've held up quite well. The company's been forthcoming about its safety record and is pretty transparent about if and when it does have issues. I think things are sort of night and day in terms of how the company has approached things with in comparison to Tesla, where you have Musk, for years, sort of hyping up what is driver assistance, software that he offers as something more than that, and calling it full self-driving, not delivering it and until this past weekend, and once he has taken people out from behind the wheel, on day one, we see these incidents that are pretty troubling and getting the
Right.
attention of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Okay, we're going to talk more about those in a second. I want to bring in Max Chafkin, who's been following the industry closely. And Max, when we've spoken to you in the past about the driverless car technology, specifically Waymo, you've been a little skeptical about it.
I think everything Craig is saying, everything you're saying is true. The questions around Waymo are business questions. Essentially, is this more than a very, very expensive, money-losing attraction for tourists in a handful of cities? Which it definitely is compelling in that sense. There are questions, and these are questions that even Waymo has acknowledged. Like, they need to figure out, they need to turn this into a money-making business. They feel like they've gotten the technology to a point that's pretty good, and now they're working on the business stuff. And this Uber deal, of course, is part of that. That's part of why you're seeing the stock go up. And then when you compare it to Tesla, the Uber stock go up. When you compare it to Tesla, Tesla is, I think, technically, like, a good way to think about this is they are years behind where Waymo is. Like, Waymo was doing some of the stuff that Tesla is doing, years ago, like 5 years ago. There are ways in which Tesla, yes, is impressive and ahead. Tesla has a lot of miles logged using its driver assistance technology, which it also confusingly calls full self-driving. But Tesla is really at the beginning of this. And like, when we're like, they have not, even this pilot program we're talking about, very modest. It doesn't include members of the public, just a handful of influencers in a very small part of Austin. So just very early. And everything that Waymo is doing, both in terms of customers and then in terms of on the business side, kind of makes that point, just shows you how wide the gap is and how far Tesla is, at least at this moment, from actually operating, a money-making robotaxi service.
All